Since you are writing your minor exams again, um, I will be taking the lecture till 6:15 only because to facilitate your preparation for ongoing minor examinations. So since today you don't have an exam, uh, started at 5:30. But tomorrow, if you feel if you have any exams during this time, you can drop a message in the chat box so that we can reschedule the time. Because I don't remember the actual schedule of some examinations are also scheduled between 6 to 6:15. If there is such thing, then give me a prior notice in the group or here in the chat box so that we can reschedule that particular class. Okay, straight away I'll be beginning with today's lecture as I was saying about was discussing about the contents related to the applied mechanics and design. So this mechanics of materials, also called as stress and strain. Also called as strength of materials. Okay, I'll just switch off my camera to facilitate the speed. Okay, today I'll be taking up the topic stress and strain. So as I already have been discussing yesterday that we are already aware of many of the topics, but we need to explore a little bit more in the point of gate preparation. So I gathered some material. Okay, since actually I am not prepared any PowerPoint way. It's available with me. I've gathered some notes, some printed notes, some handwritten notes. I've gathered very good stuff from the net or from one of your students who are already taking this GATE lectures at the Mades Institute. I know you are familiar with that institute, which is almost ranked the best on par with ACE Academy. So we're not what I say, like, the main strategy would be following the textbooks. First would be the primary task. So whatever textbooks I've given you yesterday's list of textbooks, I'll put them in the group. So maybe that's what the students must do every time when they find time. So if they must go through these textbooks. And these days, you need not worry about the hard copies. Every almost 90% of the books are available. E-books are available in the net. I'll put them whenever I get some time. So I could not prepare any PowerPoint presentation topic wise. Rather, I have collected some material. So I would be using that material. Just please bear with me because I have not prepared any. I'm just saying it again. So I'm not prepared any PowerPoint presentation. So I'm using an already printed published notes. This is one of the book I gathered from the internet. You can also get it. SK Mondal, Strength of Materials. All the especially for strength of materials. So most of the topics are designed with or been explained clearly the content that can be useful for many examinations like this person, ER means engineer. So he has been great topper and yes, so this you can get it in internet very easily. So most of the topics I thought it will suit our requirement. So straight away I will start with stress and strain. Yeah, just first theory, that will take up the problems. Today I'll be covering most of the theory part. So straight away start with the definition of stress. So as we are all aware that when a material is subject to an external force, is, you know, the material tends to resist that applied force. So that is what a resisting force is set up within a component, and that internal resistance or resistance force per unit area acting on the material or intensity of the forces distributed over a given section. So there might be a one single force, there might be distributed force. So that is what the second figure says. Or intensity of the force is distributed over a given section at a point. At a point. Or simply, mathematically, normally many of the textbooks use the symbol sigma. So here there are some very, we might have studied stress and strain in more simple manner. That is what we have called it a simple stress and strain. So here a statement is clearly made. Now you need to go into little deeper, into little deep of the concept. Now it uses the original cross-section area of the specimen. So whatever we are calculating, we are defined the stress in the way per unit area. Internal resisting force per unit area is called stress. Now that area, it is the original cross-section area. Or in other words, if the original cross-section area, what happens after we apply a load? Try to remember this point. If it uses the original cross-section area before the load applied, and we call that as an engineering stress. If it uses the original cross-section area of the specimen, we call it as an engineering stress. Hello? I'm sorry, I have to take a call. Like that was from my project students. I have to take a call, so they were giving me some update. Okay, coming to this important thing, engineering stress. So the stress which is calculated taking into consideration the original cross section area, we call it as engineering stress or conventional stress. So we are already aware of this sigma is equal to P by A. And very important about the units. So always force is expressed in Newton and area meter square and stress will be Newton per meter square. So the standard unit for stress would be Pascal, PA. The Pascal is the smallest quantity and the multiples of this unit is used. So 1 kilopascal is equal to 10 cube Newton per meter square, kilopascal, megapascal. And here we normally use this type of convention very frequently. So 1 megapascal is equal to 1 Newton per mm square. When you convert meter, 1 meter is equal to 10 power minus 3 mm. So meter square means meter into meter. So 10 power minus 3 into 10 power minus 3, 10 power minus 6. So when it goes to the numerator, it becomes, 10 cube. 1 meter is equal to 10 power 3 mm. So 10 power 3 into 10 power 3, 10 power 6. When the 10 power 6 go to numerator, it become 10 power minus 6. So 10 power minus 6 into 10 power 6 will become 1. So 1 megapascal is equal to 1 Newton per mm square or 10 power 6 Newton. So be very careful with the units. As I've been saying, you should maintain consistency with the units. And 1 gigapascal means 10 power 9. So example is taken here. A rod of 10 mm by 10 mm cross section is carrying an axial tensile load of 10 kilonewton. Tensile load going upwards. In this rod, the tensile stress developed is so 10 kilonewton means 10 into 10 cube by 10 mm into 10 mm, so 100 mm square, so 100 Newton per mm square or 100 megapascal. Simple. Now, going a little more further, the resultant of the internal forces. The resultant of the internal forces for an axially loading member, the resultant, we are speaking about the resultant, is normal to the section. Normal in the sense it is 90 degrees. So the resultant means all those internal forces they develop inside the member to resist the externally applied load. And if you take a resultant of that internal forces, it will be falling 90 degrees. To a section, you take any section that cut parallel, you take any section, you cut it like this, that force, resultant force will be perpendicular. The force intensity. So this is another definition. Sigma is equal to limit applied delta A to 0, delta A by delta A. If you take that here, there is some delta A. So sigma average is equal to P by E. So coming to stress, tensile, different types of stress. We have direct stress and indirect stress and combined stress. So direct stress means acting directly along the axis. Indirect stress means shear stress. Combined stress means combination of tensile and shear. So here, if sigma is positive, in other words, if it says sigma is greater than 0, the stress is tensile. That is, the fibers of the component tend to elongate like this due to external force. And a member subjected to external force, tensile force P, and a tensile distribution is shown here. This is what is that sigma. Tensile force, sigma greater than 0 or positive value. When we have a stress with a positive value, we call it the tensile stress. Coming to compressive, when it is negative value or sigma less than 0, the stress is compressive, they tend to push the member. The fibers come to shorten. Here they expand. Elongation because of tensile stress, contraction because of compressive stress. Now shear stress. Now when the forces are transmitted, now this word is important. This we might have heard of this kind of definition. When the forces are transmitted from one part of the other body to other within a body, the stresses are developed in a plane. Now the stress is transferred from AGB onto this bottom portion. So this is transferred like this. And shear stress acts parallel to the plane of interest. And forces P is applied transversely. Transverse in the sense in perpendicular direction to the member AB as shown. And shear stress always is caused by the shear forces which acts in a couple. Always remember, shear force acts in a couple. in the plane of section C at this point are called shearing forces. And the average shear stress is tau. Normally, shear stress is denoted by tau. So here it is tau. Load upon area. This P upon the shearing area. So that's about stress. Simply we have taken what is tensile stress, what is compressive, what is system. Coming to strain, first very important term is point is displacement per unit length. So strain is dimensionless, stress have Pascal, so they're very important. So the displacement per unit length, or in other words, change in length by original length, we call it the strain. Since we specified in a generalized way, the displacement per unit length, it can be in any direction, along length direction, along width, along thickness, along height, whatever may be in the direction. The displacement per unit length is known as strain. And when we have a tensile stress, we have a tensile strain, delta L by L. This is what is total is L dot delta L. And we divide the elongation to the original length. LO is the original length, L is the final length. So delta L by L. So we are taking again an example. A compressive strain always is negative minus delta L because of compression. So minus simple. These things are known to you. So again, the applied force is compressive. Then the reduction of length. Here, tensile means elongation per unit length. Elongation per unit length is tensile strain, and reduction of the length per unit length is known as a compressive strain. And this is always negative. Compressive strain is negative. Shear strain is a little different. When a force P is applied here, is applied tangentially to the element, its shape changes. Its edge displays, you see here. Earlier it was a vertical line, now it has become an inclined line, this dotted line. And we call it as a lateral displacement, this delta. This delta we call it the lateral displacement of element related to the lower face. With respect to lower face, it deflects. Originally this point was here, now it deflects because of the shear force. And the distance between these faces is L. This is L. Top force and bottom force. Now the shear strain is change in length by original length. So delta by L. Or it is always tan phi if you take this as a right angle rectangle. This is L. If it is tan gamma, actually it is gamma here. Tan of gamma is opposite by adjacent. Opposite is delta L. So with respect to the relative to the lower face, there is some lateral displacement delta with respect to the lower face. So in tan phi, this gamma is very small. So tan is neglected. So that way gamma is equal to delta by L. So that is about shear strain. And this is an example problem of shear strain. This is very important. Many of us might not have looked into this. True stress and true strain. Now, the true stress is defined as the ratio of the load to the cross-sectional area at any instant. This is very important. Now, whenever you are applying a load at a particular time, you have to measure the cross-sectional area at that point. It's not the original cross-section. Original cross-section does not always remain the same. But when you start applying a load, after it reaches yielding point, it starts to yield. And when that starts yielding, the cross-section area might decrease. Now you have to take into consideration that cross-section area when you are calculating load upon area. For true stress, sigma subscript T, instantaneous area at that point where the load is applied. Normally in tensile test, load is applied in steps: 100 Newton, 200 Newton, 300 Newton, 400 Newton, 500. Then when it reaches 500 Newton, it starts elongating. Now you cannot take that original cross-section area. Rather, what is that cross-sectional area at that moment when you apply 600 Newton? That is what this sentence means. Now this sigma into 1 plus epsilon. Now this is the true strain, 1 plus epsilon, where sigma is the true strain Two stress and this is engineering. There is no the relationship between two strain and engineering strain or engineering stress. The two stress to engineering stress is sigma into 1 plus epsilon. Now coming to two strain, so we apply integral now L naught to L, original length to change in length, and dl by L. So ln L by L naught. When we solve this integral, we get natural logarithm ln L by L naught, applying the limits L naught and L. So ln 1 plus e, because if you expand this, L is equal to L naught plus delta L. So delta L by L is epsilon. So L naught by L naught is 1. So if we again simplify this equation, we will get 1 plus e, or ln A naught by A. If you again further simplify this, ln A naught by A, which is nothing but 2 times ln, because area is proportional to d square, pi by 4 d square, pi by 4 d square, with d naught square, original area, instantaneous area. Pi by 4 d naught square, pi by 4, so pi by 4 gets cancelled, d square 2 comes here. So try to remember this. True strain is equal to natural logarithm ln of 1 plus true strain, or this is engineering strain, or ln A naught by A, or 2 ln D naught by D. So you might given with any of the options, or if you are given with all the 3 options, put all of them in GATE examination. Or engineering strain, alpha is epsilon is equal to e to the power is exponential sigma t e to the power sigma epsilon. This epsilon t is this one. From this equation we got this e plus 1 ln. So ln you take it to the other side, it becomes e power e sigma epsilon t. This plus 1 becomes minus 1. So from this equation only we got this. So always remember, we have a true strain and engineering strain. True strain, engineering strain. And here an assumption is made. Volume of specimen is assumed to be constant during plastic deformation. Very important. Volume. Because if the dimension goes on decreasing or increasing, but the total volume will not change. So because it is elongating means it is being compressed in the other dimension. It is being compensated in other direction. So the volume of the specimen will not change. That's why A naught L naught is equal to A. So it is valid till neck formation. But after necking starts, volume gets obviously decreased. Now let us see comparison of engineering and true stress strain curve. Now you see this dotted line. This is the actual engineering stress strain curve that we always study. We have already studied in MOS or MSM. Engineering stress strain point, we have actually this has become a straight line. So we have a proportionality limit, we have yield point, we have ultimate stress point, we have breaking point. This is an engineering stress strain curve, but this is true stress strain curve. Why? Because here we are using the original cross section area. Here we are using instantaneous cross section area, which goes on, tends to infinity. You see here, the true stress strain curve is also known as flow curve, and true stress strain gives a true indication of the deformation characteristics. Since it tends to infinity, we don't have any specific mathematical methods available to calculate the stress and strain. So we normally consider the engineering stress strain curve for all our analysis, because it is based on instantaneous dimension. That is what true stress strain curve gives a true information, because it is based on instantaneous dimension. You see, if engineering stress strain curve, the second one here, so it drops. It drops after necking, since it is based on original area. Now in true stress strain curve, that is a bigger one. The stress, however, increases after necking, because the denominator goes on increasing. Since the cross section decreases, here in the problem, sigma by A is going back up, and B by A after necking starts. Necking means complete in the middle portion, it goes on decreasing in the area very fast. Now this goes on decreasing means average, this sigma will goes on increasing. This goes on decreasing, this goes on increasing. So that is the reason why that true stress strain curve tends to infinity. Yeah, the stress, however, increases after necking since the cross-section area of the specimen decreases rapidly. And here these things are quite new to us. The flow curve means the true stress strain. True means real stress strain curve, because it is calculated or it is plotted based on the real areas. Now the flow, how the flow goes. So we are going to use K into epsilon T power N. So the flow curve, now this is quite new. If you are people who are noting down, please note down this formula. The flow curve of many metals. So this is a generalized equation. The flow curve of many metals in the region of uniform plastic deformation can be expressed by a simple power law. That is, sigma T, true stress, is equal to K multiplied by epsilon T, again true strain, whole power N. Now this K is strength coefficient, N is the strain hardening exponent, and N will be 0 for perfectly plastic solid. N is equal to 1. If N is equal to 1 for elastic solid. So for perfectly plastic solid, it is since it is brittle, it will break. So there will be no strain. So this becomes just sigma T is equal to K. For most metals, N is between 0.1 to 0.5. This is power N. Yeah. So that's about the power law. Power law for a flow curve. What is the flow curve again? Flow curve is true stress strain curve. Again, we should not forget the cycle. True stress strain curve is called the flow curve. For flow curve, we define a law called simple power law, according to which epsilon T is equal to K into epsilon T. T is the true. Epsilon T again is true. Whole power N. Now, if you see that we have an ultimate stress point, this one. So the ultimate stress point sigma u is equal to P max by A naught. So whatever A naught is original area. Here. The true stress at the maximum load means the true ultimate stress is P max by instantaneous area. If you see, this area is original cross section area, but this A is that area at the instant where the maximum load is applied. Try to understand the difference between these two figures. This A naught, A0 is the original area. AO, LO, original area, original length. AO is original area. So when we apply the maximum load upon original area, we will get ultimate tensile strength that is related to its your engineering stress strength. But when you take that instantaneous area at that point of load of application, at that point or at that instant, P max, then it is called as true stress at maximum load. Now similarly, a true strain at maximum load, ln natural logarithm A naught by A, or A naught by A is equal to E power E epsilon T. So these things might be new. Try to note them down. I'll share this PDF in a group. And eliminating P max. Now we don't know what is P max. Now instead of P max, okay, A naught by A naught. So A naught will be cancelled. So okay, A by A naught is nothing but E power. So instead of A by A naught, and P max by A naught is again ultimate strength. So if you want to represent ultimate strength for a true stress strain curve, then it is equal to the ultimate strength, which is obtained using engineering stress multiplied by E power epsilon T. Again, this is very important relationship. Sigma U, ultimate strength corresponding to true stress strain curve, is equal to the ultimate strength corresponding to engineering stress multiplied by E power epsilon T. where P max is the maximum force, A naught is original cross-section area, and A is instantaneous cross-section area. So this is two examples here. Two examples. Next we have elastic constants. So this is very important as it is being indicated here. Very important. 9 kg by 3 kg, 3k plus g. Okay, I'll stop it here because you are writing your minor exams. So I thought if I continue, it will take more 20 minutes. So I just I'll stop here. I'll explain. Okay, these examples. Yeah, okay, I'll take up these two examples here, then I'll stop. Yeah, now we'll be speaking about ultimate strength, ultimate tensile strength corresponding to the true stress, engineering stress, and ultimate strength corresponding to two stress. One is engineering stress, two stress. Now let us take two examples here. So only elongation, no neck. Necking is this case, next case. So only elongation is the original area and original length. Now it is elongated to A and A. Now in the tension test of a rod shown, initially it was A naught, original area, which is given as 50 mm square and original length 100 mm. Now after the application of the load, it is area is 40 mm square and length is 125. So this is after application of the load. So this is original area and the original length. This is instantaneous area and instantaneous length. Now here determine the true strain epsilon space T using changes in both length and area. So we have to use L and B. First of all, we have to check does the member forms neck or not. So for that check, AL naught is equal to AL or not. So even I am not aware of this. We have to check with this final area is equal to, if the area doesn't change. So that is what the concept, right? If the volume doesn't change, then there is no neck formation. So 15 to 100, 5,000. 14 to 125. How much it is? 125 forza is 1,000. 10,000. 125 forza is 500. 500,000. 10,000. Yeah, this is 10,000. This is 5,000. So the volume is not equal. So the neck formation is there. So therefore, true strain is equal to Ln L by L naught. So this is true strain. If you take the area also, we get the same. So it is been asked to do it for both using length and area. Your length is original length by change in length. If it is area, if it is length also same. If you go back here, if it is length also Ln by L. It is reverse. L by L naught, A naught by A. Original length. Oh, sorry, this is original length. This is change in length. And original is 40 mm. Okay, this is for area. Sorry, area. Area is original by final, but length is opposite. So try to remember when I'm getting confused. So we have to check with necking. This formula is applicable at maximum load. This means where we have necking. Now coming to second case, elongation with neck formation. Now a ductile metal is tested such that the necking occurs when the final gauge length is 140 mm. The final minimum cross section area is 35. Though the rod is initially, it was 50 mm square and 100 mm. So determine the tool strain using both. So again, to check the necking forms or not, we have to check the volume, and both the volumes are different. So necking is there, original length is greater than the final, original volume is greater than the final volume. So some volume is lost in necking process, so there is necking. And tool strain is A naught by A. Simple. So why we have to use length and area? Because, so this is the reason. After necking, this is a necking, forming a neck. Gauge length gives error, but area and diameter can be used for calculation of tool strain at fracture, before fracture also. So there is one point to be noted here. The gauge length gives error. I will take up this Hooke's law and elastic constants in tomorrow's class. With this, I end today's lecture, simple stress and strain, covering the topics engineering stress, engineering strain, tool stress and tool strain, comparison between tool stress and tool strain. So we'll meet tomorrow at 5:30.